Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Andy Pedraza with Special Effects Academy on the start of the week overview for the week beginning May 27th, 2018. I do ask that everybody mute their phones as we get started. However, feel free to unmute and ask any questions along the way. Don't be afraid of interrupting. This is meant to be a group session, so don't be afraid to speak up if you have any questions or comments. That said, what we're going to do here is take a look at the week that just ended, just to get an idea of how everything fared. Take a look at what the charts are showing us on the daily vis-a-vis the support, resistance, and this, that, and the other as we start to make our way into the new week. Just trying to get a little bit of a heads up on anything that might be interesting as we start our trading for the week. As a reminder, tomorrow is Memorial Day here in the United States. It is a holiday. The market will be open. However, we will not be. I am going to be taking the day off, as is everybody else in the Forex Academy. So keep that in mind. This will be our kickoff for the week, and then our next session is going to be Tuesday at noon. Everybody should have the schedule and the links in your email if you need to figure anything out. If anything's not clear, you have any questions on that, just shoot us an email back. I'll be happy to send you the right links and the calendar, schedule, whatnot. Okay, so that being said, let us get started. Our contents are going to be, as usual, we're going to take a look at the currency strength meter, the comparative for the different currencies. We're going to look at any fundamental announcements for the week coming up, the charts for the major pairs, any setups in progress that I see, and a few parting words before we get everything, before we wrap up. Again, I ask that everybody mute themselves if they're not talking. I am getting a bit of background noise. Okay, so we'll start as usual with the currency strength meter. In this slide, I'm going to be comparing the week that just ended with the week immediately prior. So the week ending May 18th with the week that ended this past Friday. We can see that volatility in the market continues to be about the same. We're looking at about a 2.5% move this week, and the week prior was 2.24. So upwards of 2% movement on the currency markets for both weeks. We can see that the Australian has continued to perform very well against most of the currencies for 2 weeks now in a row. So we have seen a recovery. The Canadian has dropped a little bit this past week, except against everyone except for the euro and the pound. The Swiss has had a nice couple of weeks run after a very rough period. So we've had 2 weeks in a row of Swiss recovery. The euro has had the same 2 weeks in a row of a slump, probably even more, but we're just looking at the past 2 weeks. The pound was the overall loser this past week. The JPY, the overall winner. We can see that the pound was at the bottom of the pack. The yen was at the top. And we took advantage of a lot of those imbalances towards the end of the week. So all in all, we caught enough of them to make them worth our while. The Kiwi continues to be in the middle of the pack. The dollar has been appreciating against the Canadian, the euro, and the pound. It did give up some terrain against the New Zealand, the Aussie, the Swiss, and the yen. At the end, you see gold and silver, or silver and gold in that order. I use those just as a general keeping my finger on the pulse of the market. So nothing that we need to be concerned about here. But I do like to keep an eye on what gold and silver are doing. It helps me get a little bit of a heads up, advance warning on anything that might be impacting the currency markets in the weeks to come, even the months to come. So I'm going to move on to the fundamental announcements for the week. We don't have a whole lot of them, but we have two very key ones, possibly three, maybe four, who knows. We're starting out on Wednesday with the GDP in Canada as well as the U.S. Annualized. Those are at 8:30 in the morning U.S. Eastern Time on Wednesday the 30th. I normally don't trade these live. I'll make a decision by Tuesday. The past couple of GDPs and CPIs have actually been pretty good. But I don't think they're going to have that big of an impact because that same day at 10 in the morning, U.S. Eastern Time, we have the interest rate decision coming out of the Bank of Canada. That one I'm definitely going to be playing live. So I will send an invite for a special session on Wednesday to trade the Bank of Canada rate statement and interest rate decision, 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern Daylight Time. So we'll open up the trading room around 9:30 in the morning, my time. On Thursday, we have CPI coming out of the Eurozone, and we have the core personal consumption out of the U.S. I doubt that I'll be trading those live. 5 a.m. in the morning is a little bit too inconvenient for me. And the CPC, I really don't give it much. No, I don't generally trade that one. But there it is on the calendar. More importantly, Friday is the first Friday of the month, June 1st. And we will have the non-farm payroll coming out of the U.S. That is usually the fundy of the month for trading. So that one we will definitely be trading live. I'll be opening up the trading room around 8 in the morning, my time on Friday, June the 1st. Okay, moving on. We now start getting into the charts. So this is the euro dollar. All the charts we're going to be looking at are daily charts. We can see that the euro dollar, after that fantastic uptrend it had been in for over a year, has now finally decisively broken through all the trend lines, providing support, and is now making a test of probably the last trend line on its way towards the bottom. It definitely has a long way to fall if it does fall, and this may become a major point of support where it is right now, and it will actually start trending back up. No way to know. This is not a predictive exercise, but it is noteworthy that it's now right at that level of support resistance where the two trend lines cross. So we'll be keeping a close eye on the euro dollar as the week advances, and we'll see that there are more pairs that are in similar situation to the euro dollar. So definitely we're at a pivot point, and this could go either way. But if it does continue to drop, it's going to be a magnificent opportunity to pick up some pips. If it goes in the opposite direction, we will trade it very safely, but we will still trade it and try to make as much as we can until the new trend establishes itself. At that point, it'll be a little bit like taking candy from a baby. But for now, it's both a good opportunity, but also a time to be a little bit cautious. Moving on to the pound dollar. We see a similar situation playing out in the pound dollar. It has definitely broken through all the levels of support and is now actually finding support on a downward trend line that was established back in September of last year, and it's now making a test. It still has another level of support below that, and to be honest, it's a long ways away from the lows post-Brexit. And towards the end of 2016, that was the lowest point of the pound. It did go below 120. It's currently at 132, so that is a good 1,200, almost 1,300 pips above that low. I do not expect it to get that far. In fact, I think at some point we will see a pound recovery. But those of you who have been trading with me on the weeklies as well as trading on the long-term account, you know that I've been shorting the pound dollar very successfully for a couple of months now. which is why you see all those little red and blue arrows. So that's been a good moneymaker. We'll be taking a look at what it does this week as the week gets kicked off. Right now, again, anything that's on a level of support resistance on the daily, that gives me a little bit of concern. I need to see it continue making that push before I jump in with all guns blazing, but it is looking good, at least for another 300 to 400 pips on its way down before it finds some level of stability and starts climbing back up. Moving on to the USDJPY. The USDJPY has been in a slowly descending, it's a very sideways channel, but sloping down very gradually. And we can see that it almost reached the top of that channel and has now bounced and is going back down. The yen tends to work opposite to the other currencies, especially the dollar and the European, in that the Europeans in particular, they use the yen as a shelter. When things are bad at home, they start pouring their money into the yen, making it stronger. So this is what we saw play out as the uncertainty in Europe started growing, the yen started getting stronger, and that's why it's moving down. Likely will continue to move down. It is, though, at a nice level of support resistance right now with that trend line, and it still has a ways to go to the bottom. Last week, towards the end of the week, we did trade this yen strength very successfully on at least 3 different JPY pairs. So we caught most of this move between Thursday and Friday. We'll see if it continues this week and we start getting into a few more trades. So I'm definitely interested in the USDJPY as well as the JPY pairs in general. USD Canadian, I've been leaving the CAD alone, except for very brief forays, trying to get 50 pips or so at a time as it doesn't move. So you do see a few arrows there, but in general, it's been moving very sideways. And more importantly, it's just been bouncing too much. It really hasn't picked a direction. I like to see a pair that is trending either up or down. I really don't care which. But CAD has not been very cooperative, so I've been under trading it for a few weeks now. We'll see if it comes back. For now, I'm keeping an eye on it, but it's really not on my radar. USD Swiss, this is another pair that is very range-bound normally, but it does do its breakouts. It recently went all the way from the bottom of the chart, as we can see, towards the top. So very, very weak. A lot of weakness in the Swiss against every other currency. It finally hit a top, found resistance around the 1.0050 and started bouncing back down. I've got to say that we caught most of the move up and we've already caught most of the move down as well. So we've been trading this one as it trends. Right now, this uptrend has not yet been broken. And it would need to pierce this trend line that we see here for me to think that it's going to try to make its way all the way back to the bottom. For now, I'm trading it on the short term, 50 to 100 pips at a time. And we did get a nice bit of profit off of the Swiss recovery this past week. And I look forward to probably getting more. So the Swiss is also a currency that's going to be on my radar for the week. On the Aussie dollar, I've been expecting for months now, really, that the Aussie will recover against the dollar as well as a lot of other currencies. It seems to have bottomed out. We can see that bottom here, and it is trying to make its way up, but has not yet broken any of the trends I needed to break. I'm very eager to trade the Aussie all the way back to the top, but it really hasn't cooperated. And in fact, it may stay there in the doldrums and just trading sideways or slowly upward for months at a time. So I'm going to be waiting for a better opportunity to get into the Aussie. It's obviously it's too early for that. So the Australian is not really going to be on my radar. Keep an eye on it, but I'm really not expecting much. Kiwi dollar, pretty much the same thing. We've seen a lot of weakness in the Kiwi against pretty much every currency except the euro. And I don't expect that to change anytime soon. Another one that's going to be on the back burner. If I see it start making a run towards the top, I'll definitely get in. But it's going to be a waiting game. It'll happen eventually, but I'm not going to hold my breath. And now we start getting into some of the exotics, the Australian, Canadian. The Canadian, as I said, is very erratic, not a pair that I would like to trade for the long term, but we can certainly get into some of these swings that we have on the different CAD pairs. So we can see that the CAD is weakening even against the Australian, which is good. When the Australian regains strength, this one is going to shoot up like a rocket ship. So I'll be keeping an eye on that situation. If I see strength in the Aussie, this is going to be one of the key pairs that I'll be trading, and that could be 500 pips and up very easily. So we'll keep an eye on that one. But again, another one that I'm not holding my breath on. Euro Swiss, and this was probably one of our better trades last week on the long-term account. We got a lot of profit on its way down. As we can see, it just completely blew through that trend line. So there's no longer anything stopping it from going straight to the bottom. If we have a Swiss recovery, and at the same time we're seeing weakness in the euro, this one could easily go all the way back to the bottom for about 600 pips. How fast it'll do that, no idea, but definitely this one is going to be at the top of my radar for the week if I see it continuing. I'll likely be opening up a trade on this one as soon as we come back from the Memorial Day holiday, so early Tuesday on the noon session. This is going to be one of my pairs to watch and see what it's done in this first day of trading that we have ahead. But for now, it's just make an interesting annotation here that I'm looking at this and really very eager to pick up this empty space here as it drops, if it does drop. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that one. Euro pound, the euro pound, I am trading it on the long term. I'm trading it up. I've traded it down as well with some success here and there and some losses. But in general, we can see that this pair has definitely hit the doldrums. It's doing some nice bounces in pip value, but it is trading sideways. So I'm not going to be worrying too much about it as we go forward. Okay. Euro JPY, of course, the JPY, as we saw in the prior charts or chart, is getting stronger, especially against the European currencies. So this was one of our major movers on Friday, and we caught a good chunk of this move Thursday into Friday. That pretty much fixed our week. The JPY pairs made a flat week. We had already recovered from an earlier loss. The week was flat, and the JPY trades just moved the needle firmly back into the profit. We ended up the week with a 3.66% gain for just a week. The month is above 12% right now, and we still got a week to go. But most of the gain this week came from the JPY pairs, and this was a key one. So it is at a major level of support over here at the bottom. Not sure if it's going to have strength to pierce through, but if it does, there's going to be a nice opportunity. So this is another pair that's high on my radar for the week. Euro Canadian, this has been a steady provider. We did trade it down last week, and it gave us some pips. And we can see that after topping out back in March, it has been steadily making its way down, following this trend line. Hasn't really even attempted to break it. We may be due for a bit of sideways movement for it to get closer to the trend line, but in general, I think with that euro weakness, the CAD has a good chance of heading back down towards the 144 area, which was the prior low. So keeping an eye on that one as well, but I need to see a little bit more decisiveness from the Canadian dollar. The euro is already as weak as it can get, so that one's already cooperating, but I need the CAD to also pick up a little bit of speed there. Pound JPY was another of the pairs that gave us a nice chunk of profit Thursday into Friday. It faked this out first. I had a 50 pip loss on a trade, and I noticed that there was really no change. It should have still been going down instead of up. So I re-entered that trade and made back the 50 pips and then some. So it added to the positive balance from the week, and we can see that it was really a nice drop. It's very close to a nice level of support here. If it does pierce that, it can still have room to go hundreds of pips towards the bottom. So yet another one that's top of my deck for keeping an eye on next week, or this week rather. We've already started. Aussie JPY. Same thing with the JPY. We see the JPY strength returning to the market, causing this one to take a nosedive. However, it is very close to that trend line. And in general, the Aussie JPY is still trending upward, trying to recover from that dismal drop earlier this year. From January through the end of March, we saw the Aussie collapse. And since then, with the Aussie JPY, we have had some recovery. And in general, it is trending up, but it's making very wide swings, and it's not moving that far. It's at a very slow speed. I would still expect it to continue following this trend line until something gives the Aussie strength, at which point it's going to shoot up very rapidly towards the top of the chart. That's the move I want to catch, the big one that takes me all the way up to 90 from where it is right now at 82.5. That's 750 pips on its way to the top. So I am eager to catch that. But again, this is a waiting game until the Aussie does something of a recovery. It is, we can only take just a few pips at a time, if that. So this one is not going to be one of my my pairs to keep an eye on unless the Aussie recovery starts happening. The Euro New Zealand, on the daily, we see that it is trading very flat, not doing much of anything. However, on the hourly charts, these swings are huge. So we do have opportunities to capture pips as the Euro New Zealand trades sideways, but with very wide swings as it does so. So this is one that I'm keeping an eye on, and eventually I also want to catch that big drop towards the bottom of the chart. And in fact, the Kiwi, the New Zealand weakness, is the only thing that's kept that from happening, because the euro is already weak. So basically, these two currencies have both been weak. If either one of them strengthens against the other, we're going to have a sharp correction in either direction. And I'll be trying to capture as much of that as I can. But this is another one where it's going to be a waiting game. Pound Canadian, same as the Euro CAD. The European currencies are in a slump, so both the Euro and the Pound are heading down, and the Canadian is taking advantage of it. The Canadian isn't very strong either right now, or this would have already hit the bottom of the chart, maybe surpassed it. That's all that's holding it back. We do have that interest rate decision out of Canada on Wednesday, and that may be the kicker that this needs to either head towards the bottom or to the top, but I'm hoping for a sharp move in either direction. And if there is one, we will take advantage of it. I don't care which way it goes. I just want to be along for the ride. And that does bring us to the end of the charts for review. Does anybody have any comments or questions, or need me to go back to a chart to answer anything? If so, feel free to jump in right now and let me know. Okay, I'll take that as a no. So here is a little bit of the insights after looking at all these charts. The USD pairs, the dollar has been strong for 5 or more weeks right now. I've just been adding one to this number every week as I fill out my deck. So I know it's at least 5 weeks. I'm continuing to trade on dollar strength. You know, that's a trend. Why buck the trend? So I am trading dollar strength, but I'm also ready for a reversal at any point. I don't think the USD strength is sustainable. And of course, we do have the non-farm payroll coming out on Friday, so keep that in mind. But whichever direction the dollar picks at the beginning of the week, it's fairly safe to trade it up through the fundamental. Once the fundamental comes around, I would be closing out any dollar trades, or at least making sure my stops are very, very tight so that I don't give back any profit or expose the account to any significant loss. The euro, it's still in retreat. How low can it go? I asked that last week. I guess the answer is lower, because it definitely hasn't seemed to be finding any sort of a stopping point. The pound also in the slump. Terribly sorry for all my Brit friends, but what can you do? We're going to make some pips while that continues moving in that direction. We're agnostic. We don't care if things are going up or they're going down. All we care is that we're moving, and right now the euro and the pound are moving down. The dollar is moving up. That's all that we should care. The Swiss had a brutal month or so where it just completely dropped against everybody. The past 2 weeks have seen a recovery, and if it continues to recover, I will continue trading it in that direction. So definitely a key currency, the Swiss franc, as we go into the week. Last but not least, the Jpy pairs. I always like the Jpy pairs because they're very predictable, in the sense that if the euro is going down, the yen is going up, period, because the yen is that shelter, that safe haven for the European money. So that worked out nicely. We caught most of that move. The yen recovered across the board, almost against every other currency. Will it continue? No way of knowing. Really, the answer is the euro going to continue to drop? Is the pound going to continue to drop? If the answer to those questions is yes, the yen is automatically going to get stronger. So if that happens, we'll definitely be looking to trade it aggressively. And that's it. Those are the setups that I see playing out as the week begins. My final words there is, and you've all heard this from school on, don't make mistakes. That's what they teach you at school, right? So if you make a mistake in a test, you get points taken off. Well, guys need to get over that. No advance in the history of the race has ever been accomplished by avoiding mistakes, which is also known as risk. So you have to take risk in order to gain. As traders, risk is going to be the currency that we have in our pockets. We're going to be paying in risk, not in dollars, not in euros, paying in risk, hoping to buy profit as a result. That means that you will make mistakes, you will have losing trades, but they should be looked at more as if you're testing the waters. Is the profit this way? Is it that way? Is it down that scary looking path? You don't know where the profit is. So we throw some risk out as bait, and we're hoping that profit takes a nibble. And sometimes the profit is going to take the bait off the hook and run away with it. So we will have losing trades. We had a lot of them last week. The week really started awful. We had 2 trades from the prior week that went the wrong way. The first few trades that we opened on Monday into Tuesday also went the wrong way. We were significantly down. By Thursday morning, the account was flat. We had recovered everything that we had lost in the beginning. And then Thursday into Friday towards the close, we made a lot of nice profit. Could the week have been better? Sure. But if we hadn't taken the risk that we took, we also would have avoided the profits. So keep that in mind. What they taught you in school about not making mistakes, that's totally wrong. You cannot make anything without making mistakes. So don't be afraid, I guess, is the moral of the story. So you got the 2 doors there at the end of at the end of a corridor, and I hope you're all familiar with the story of the lady or the tiger. At some point, you got to open that door, or else you're going to decide not to open anything, not to trade, and basically bunker down somewhere and then wait for the end. Because if you're not going to take action, that's probably the worst thing you can do. It's better to take the wrong action than to not do anything. When you take the wrong action, you can always correct it along the way. If you do nothing, then you're at the mercy of what everything else is doing. So that is my parting message for today. And now I open the floor. Any comments or questions? Hit me.
I have a quick comment. Yogi, hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Yep. Quick comment from Yogi Berra. If you come to a crossroads, take it.
Absolutely. I love Yogi Berra's comments. They make no sense, but they do.
Brilliant. Wait,
Yes, yes, yes.
it ain't over till the fat lady sings.
Exactly, exactly. Excellent. Thank you,
Thank you,
Hadrian, for
Andy.
that.
Appreciate for the summary. Have a good look at the charts and feeling enriched.
Absolutely. And I know you had a question at the beginning. If you need to reach out to me after this, we can have a little one-on-one and figure out what you needed. So I'll ping you. I'll FaceTime you and we'll have a quick chat.
Perfect.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Let's see who everybody else is. Okay. Hey, Jackie, welcome aboard. I see you made it. Okay, then, folks, I will be closing this down. A last reminder, we will have no sessions tomorrow because it is Memorial Day here in the U.S., and I'm going to take very undeserved, but I'm still going to take it, a very undeserved rest. We will be back in the trading room on Tuesday at noon U.S. Eastern Time. I hope to see all of you then. Thank you very much, and talk to you next time.